But by the early 1990s, things hadn't gotten better for the working class kids, and suddenly the optimism and escapism of the hair band era seemed out of touch.
There were all these hair bands, and they had ruled the rock landscape for literally 10 years. In one stroke of Smells Like Teen Spirit, it's like the sickle came and lopped all their heads off. They became a style that had ended almost immediately.
Personally, I couldn't relate to a dude wearing spandex and whose hair is this big in a limousine with a fucking stripper. Because I was making minimum wage, busting ass just to pay the rent, and playing punk rock because I was angry or empowered or inspired, like, yeah! I think there were a lot of people like me that was like, God damn it, I want something fucking real and noisy, and I want someone to break their shit in front of me.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Dave.
And I'm Kurt. And we are Nirvana.
When the music scene doesn't connect with the generation, an anti-anthem anthem takes it back to the kids.
Teen Spirit is the black sheep of rock anthems.
First time I heard it, I went, huh, why didn't I write that, you know?
This is School's Out 20 years later, but way angrier.
When Kurt Cobain sings "A Mosquito, My Libido," I always thought, oh, wow. What an amazing poetic way to feel the frustration of being a young man in America at that time. Speaking for possibly as a voice of a generation, saying, what's happened to culture in the early 90s? Where are we? Why does the 18-year-old man feel impotent? Hence, mosquito-sized libido.
Smells Like Teen Spirit came from a jam. That's where that quiet verse and loud chorus came from. We were just doing it by instinct. It feels like it's going to explode right now. And then you go into the next part.
Nirvana sought out up-and-coming indie producer Butch Vig.
When we got into rehearsals, Kurt started the guitar riff and Dave hit that drum fill and they kicked in, and I was absolutely blown away. And when they finished the song, I sort of stood there and I got up and started pacing around. I looked at all the other songs and I didn't know what to do, and I was like, play it again.
Butch comes to the studio and then he makes little suggestions that are never overwhelming or intrusive. And you record and then you come back and listen and it's like, Jesus, Butch, how'd you do that?
Kurt still had this punk ethic that he felt like he didn't want to cheat. It had to kind of be live in the studio. Even though I recorded the live vocal, I liked going back and having a little bit more control. And he didn't like to do that, so I would, I'd have to push him, and using Beatles references was a good way. When I wanted to double his voice, and he said, no, that's cheating. I said, well, John Lennon did it on everything he sang on. And Kurt would think about that for about 10 seconds, and he'd go, okay. The band decided to do a secret gig at a tiny little club on Pico called Jabberjaw. And the word had got out on one of the local radio stations, and there was a huge line to get in, probably 500 or 600 people. It was so cramped, and they started out with Teen Spirit. Even though no one there had ever heard the song, people's jaws dropped. They knew that they were at ground zero to hearing Nirvana's music explode.
If you were into that song in those years, then you were a part of something.
It's hard for me to really think of that song or Nirvana in that way, because to me it was me and Chris and Kurt, and we were kids. Whenever I think about the impact that that album had or that song, I just think about the impact that it had on my life, all of a sudden I could pay the rent. I'd have to work at the fucking furniture warehouse anymore, you know? It's like, cool. I was gonna go back to college, but fuck that. You know?